Happy Friday, sisters. Welcome back to Come Sis with Me, the podcast, a movement fueled by the heart of women with a desire to experience genuine community that uplifts, empowers, and strengthens one another on one common ground, sisterhood. I'm your host, Mia, and today we are talking about generosity. But before I get into that, some things have changed, guys. I got new glasses that I absolutely believe is a scam. They are only for reading, but still think it's a scam because I can read without them. It's just the words are a little bit clearer when I read with them. As you can see, I'm also in a different area. My husband and I have moved. One, because we are still in the in-between waiting process of signing another contract to go back overseas. And if you know anything about overseas basketball life, you know that is extremely unpredictable and also sometimes frustrating to wait for the process to take place. So, you know, we've just been living life, loving God, really enjoying being home a little bit longer than we typically are. And yeah, it's put me in a weird, awkward space, which is why we had to take last week off, FYI. Um, I just have been extremely emotional. And maybe it is because, this is a new season of life, and August is always, for a basketball family, is always the new year because new contracts typically start in August. And so this has been my life. Every August is my new year. The way that you prepare in December for January is the way that I prepare in July for August to come. And then August came and August went. I don't know where homegirl had to be, but she was out of here. August was gone. I don't know. Do you guys just feel like August is a girl? Have you ever done that? That's another topic. Never mind. That's a weird, quirky thing about me is everything is assigned a gender, numbers, alphabet letters, months. I don't know. Maybe it helps me engage more. But what I have been overwhelmed by in this month, or in the month of August, and even going into September, is the fact that my sisters and the people around me have been so generous. And what I mean by generosity is more than money, right? Because generosity goes beyond just things that you equate to a number or a dollar sign. But generosity really includes anything that you're willing to give that will benefit someone else. So I wrote down a couple things that I believe has been, I don't know, just the trigger to the tears this month. In addition to money, right? So time, knowledge, wisdom, support, solidarity, space, like physical space, encouragement, a kind word. Like, these are just some of the things that have hit me, and they fall into like these generic categories, but it's important, or I'm seeing the importance of generosity and sisterhood. Now, I looked it up, obviously, because I am a, nerd, right? But I wanted to see what what other people were saying. And so, because I'm Christian, I went to a Christian site. And the way that they categorized generosity were with 7 different things. And I just want to share them with you because I want you to think about coming away from this, not only how people can, how you can receive generosity, but how can you be generous in these areas? If money is not your thing, you know, maybe you just don't have the margin for it right now. Maybe one of these other things could be within your margin. So 7 things. The first one was thoughts. And I'm like, how the heck can someone be generous with their thoughts? But when you think about all of the ways in which we judge people, and just based off of what their scenario is or their situation is, we immediately can cast a judgment. And just think about how amazing it would be to have a generous amount of good thoughts for your sister, because what you believe or what you think about something, right, automatically translates to how typically what you say, how you respond, where your heart is postured. And so thinking about generous thoughts, like being generous in your thoughts, you don't necessarily have to say anything to them, but just think about that person, right? Put them on your heart. Put their situation or their scenario on your heart. Write it down for your prayer journal. Keep them in your mind as a present concern, so that you can offer something to them when time comes, right? And that kind of flows directly into number 2, which was words, right? Be generous in your words to people. Kind words to people. I put kind words in my book, and then when I went to look it up, it said words. I'm like, we probably need to put something on that. But be generous in the words that you supply to people. Um, I I know, like, when people first see me, sometimes I have this face, we call it the RB face, and it doesn't look as I don't look as approachable as people probably are, or that I am, right? Like, you can approach me and literally say anything and not anything. You can approach me and just start talking to me, and I will hold a long conversation with you most of the time, right? But if you look standoffish, or that you just aren't ready to have a conversation, most people won't have any words for you. But what having a heart posture towards a generous amount of words gives you is, even if someone approached you and you weren't expecting it, you have kind words to offer them. Like, being generous in the words that you express. And I think this goes along with some of the things that I shared about knowledge and wisdom, and encouragement. Like, that can all be extensions of being generous with your words. I had the opportunity to speak with one of my good sisters that I met through basketball, and just not even expecting what I got. Seriously, I received so much knowledge from her in that conversation, um, that it really gave me a motivation to seek more, to do more, to just keep going. It was exactly what I needed, in addition to some other sisters that I spoke with that were wise in their words to me, right? So maybe it wasn't a word of knowledge because it didn't give me any additional insight into something, but the wisdom that was shared was genuine and compassionate and encouraging in its own way. The third one is money, and we talked about this. Some people aren't in a position to give money monetarily, right? But prepare your heart to get there, right? Even if you're not there physically, being generous with your money is an understatement. It really stretches you. My husband and I, again, we're waiting on a contract. His income is primarily our source of livelihood, right? But even in this time, I want to be generous. And so we decided to make it. This was an extremely hot week in Philly, in Delaware, and the surrounding areas. And I'm sure wherever you're at too, it's just ridiculous. It's just hot. And there's a plethora of homeless And I don't particularly like to be caught out when without something to give them. And in the moving process, we just, everything's all over the place. But Scooty and I decided we were just going to make book bags. We got some book bags from Target. We filled them up with a bunch of things that we Googled online that homeless would potentially need. And I knew that because it's hot, like water is essential. And so I, got a little cooler, bought some waters, put them in the back of the truck, just preparing myself to be generous. And yes, it was a sacrifice and money, but I just feel like the reward for generosity is so much bigger than what we're spending in dollars right now, right? The reaping of the reward later on, even if we get nothing in money, oh, man, I just know it's going to come back in another way, right? I just believe that wholeheartedly. And maybe that's why I've been in such a emotional place this week. But time was 4. So time is calling, texting, right? So this can go in conjunction with words, but being generous with your time costs more to me than money. Right? Taking an hour or 2 out of your day to call your sister and talk to them, have a prayer call, check in, all of those things, go hang out with them, just creating space for them is a lot, right? It could be a lot. And so give generously in your time. 5 was influence. And I mean, this one hit me hard because yes, this is a form of me podcasting as a way of me trying to influence the women that God will bring to our community in a good way, right? But I don't think I recognize the generosity that takes place in influence. So many people guard their influence and they only share it for a special, like these people that are around them. But when you take something that is good and light in you and you're able to be generous and share that with the women in the world around you, you are creating an opportunity for women to grow, for women to feel like they have some solidarity with you, right? Even if you don't know people, you know, intimately, right? In a relationship wise, the influence that you carry is super important. So being generous with your influence in the supermarket, being generous with your influence in the marketplace, like your job and church and all of those different places is essential. Don't guard it. Don't gatekeep it. Don't gatekeep your influence because someone needs it. I know there's this big thing online about influencers and everybody wants to be an influencer. And I think it gets a negative connotation. But what you have, other women need. Other sisters in your vicinity need, right? And I'm talking about the good things, right? Obviously, I want you to be self-aware and know what you need to work on, right? And don't obviously influence people to curse or to do things unless cursing is your thing. I mean, it's not for me. But be mindful of what you influence, but don't gatekeep the things that you know have worked for you, is good for you, and that you want to share with the world. The 6 was attention. Be generous with your attention. Do you know how hard it is to be a good listener? Right? Obviously, you're listening to this podcast, and praise God for you for getting to the 14-minute mark, of this segment, because maybe listening to somebody isn't for you. But I want you to be generous and think about how generous you can be in your attention that you give to details and to people. because when you pay attention to details and when you listen to people, you are able to apply a level of empathy and compassion that did not exist before. I promise you, I'm not lying in this. I'm a counselor by trade. I literally sit and listen to people talk all day. But if it wasn't my attention to detail and being generous in that, not just doing it because of my job, but being overtly generous, and okay, they're saying something, but I'm seeing something different, right? I'm feeling something different. Be generous in the attention that you give others so that you can give what is absolutely necessary in that moment. Sometimes we give things that aren't necessary or aren't helpful, right? And that goes back to a couple segments before. Be mindful, be generous, right? And then the seventh is belongings. And this hit a little home because at the end of the summer, my husband and I, because we sold our home a couple years ago, we decided that we were just going to rent in the summers. We figure contracts are, they're coming pretty consistently. We don't really have to wait for these things. I did not make a plan for where we would stay after August. I thought we would be gone. I honestly thought that we'd be gone super early in August. So I was worried about wasting money on a Airbnb that we would only stay into the middle of August. But we have amazing friends. I'm not going to cry. I might, but I'm not. Who's just offer their home up to us without even a shrug of the shoulders. That is, my home was precious to me. I mean, I safeguarded that thing like it was the temple of God. I was like, only certain people can come in, right? And even now I'm convicted in that, like, my home I should have been generous with the things that I had. And not everybody has a home. I don't have a home, right? But because of the generosity of our friends, of my sister, she was like, you come stay with us. Mad at me because I didn't tell her that we didn't have a place to stay a couple weeks. She was like, what? Girl, why were you not here? Just lending her space, and not a inkling of pride attached to it whatsoever. Like, you don't have a place to stay? Sure, you come. There was nothing of those sorts that was even remarkably close to how she responded. And maybe generosity is the reason why my heart is in such a tender place right now. So I want to encourage you to think about giving without a spirit of pride attached to it, right? And also being willing to give. Just give. Just be generous in the things that you have to offer. One of my sisters, super TMI, but she didn't know how to put a tampon in, right? And while some of us think that's ridiculous, it really isn't. When you think about, in the grand scheme of things, everything that we have to know as women in the world and how we have grown up and the things that we were taught, not every woman knows how to do the things that we think are essential to womanhood. And what you depict and dictate as a piece of womanhood may not be what your sister does. And some women just don't know what you know. And being generous in your thoughts and your words and your influence and your attention and your money and your time and your belongings gives them the opportunity to level up in the same place that you are, or even go beyond you, or even come beside you, right? Or maybe it's not even a leveling up, but maybe it is just like I said, like a opportunity to create this foundation of solidarity that we all don't need to do and act and behave the same way. And we don't need to know the same things, but I'm willing to share with you what I do know, how I behave, why I believe what I believe, how I get to the places that I get to, and my thoughts and my days. Shoot. Some of my sisters were like, how the heck do you do that? Right? Some of my sisters who are in the basketball world, they're like, oh girl, I would be going crazy. Yeah, me too. But the generosity of my sisters have held me down over the last couple of weeks. And I am eternally grateful. I'm eternally grateful. Let me read this to you. Generosity involves giving to others, not simply anything in abundance, but rather giving those things that are good for others. Generosity also intends to enhance the true well being of those to whom it gives. So I want you guys to think about what you need to be generous in giving, right? And how it could enhance the well being of the person in whom you give it to. Because it's a great feeling to be able to give. Um, but it's also an even greater feeling to receive. And I am appreciative that I've had the opportunity to now receive. I've been a giver all of my life. Yeah. My husband and I we laugh about it often, that it truly is like our superpower in our marriage, is that we are givers. We just give, right? And we really don't think about receiving. But when we had the opportunity to receive, now that we have the opportunity to receive, I think that is just going to enhance the that's just going to enhance the giving. I mean, the Lord knows what he is doing. So I pray a spirit of generosity over my sisters this week. I pray that you will see the benefits and reap the harvest of what generosity brings to you. And I pray that you just keep giving if that is already the place in which you're in. That's it for this Friday. I'll catch you next week. Same place, same time. And if you don't already know, you got this, sis. Love you guys.